So now we'll be starting with the example session for nonverbal intelligence. Okay, we are done with the theory session. The example session for nonverbal intelligence will slightly be a bit longer. So we'll have like probably couple of sessions, not just one session. And the reason I had mentioned this during the theory class is that nonverbal intelligence is, compared to other chapters you have under intelligence, this chapter is more lengthy, right? Because you have more topics. And also, so there are some topics that we have not covered in theory, but there are questions asked from those topics. We will also be discussing such questions. So we'll start the example session with such questions. So the reason basically why I have not discussed, I mean, it's not that we haven't discussed, we have discussed those as separate chapters. So for example, we have done chapters analogy, like chapters like analogy or chapters like classification, which have been discussed. But so we have under analogy, I do not know if you remember, but under analogy we had discussed number analogy, letter analogy, word analogy. Similarly for classification also we had number classification, letter classification, word classification, right? We had all of this. But there is also something called figure analogy. This is where nonverbal intelligence comes into play. So all of these topics that we have discussed as separate chapters, the figure aspect to it. So there was number analogy, letter analogy, word analogy. There is also something called figure analogy, which comes under nonverbal intelligence. So, but there is nothing to add per se as a topic, because once you do analogy, you have like a clear idea of the, I mean, you get your mind to work in a certain way, then you can do any kind of analogy questions. Figure analogy questions are also going to be very easy. You just need to know how analogies, and even for analogy, see, there's not really much theory, right? It's just getting your brain wired in that way. So and just knowing, that these are analogy questions and how to think in an analytical way. So once you get that, it's very simple. So that's why I've not included these as separate topics, because one, we studied that as a separate chapter, and what we have studied as that chapter is enough. But I do not want, I mean, you might see these questions for your exams and you might think, okay, what, I don't know what topic this comes under, and it might stress you out a bit. So I thought we'll discuss questions, because I want to make sure that we discuss questions of all types. Okay, so right, so the first question we have is in fact from figure analogy. Figure analogy. But before we get into questions, okay, we'll do one thing. Now we'll just discuss, and once we get to questions from the topics that we discussed under nonverbal intelligence, I will just go have a quick recap through nonverbal intelligence. Okay, for now let's just start. So figure analogy. This is a question from figure analogy. So first of all, do you people remember what analogy was? Basically, what we did under analogy is you had to find the relationship between two things, and then using that relationship, you had to find out, I mean, you just need to figure out that relationship, and using that some question will be asked. So this is the similar thing. It's actually the same thing, just that instead of there being letters or numbers or words, here you have figures. So you have two figures and this, so you have just one colon here and you have two colons here. All of these are things that we learned under analogy. What does it mean? Basically, for example, this, let's say, okay, 6. What this means is that 2 and 4 are related in a certain way. 1 colon means that both of these are related in a certain way. If so, if there is this relation, basically you need to find out what this relation is, and you need to use this relation to find out what will be related to 6 in the same way. That's the question, right? So 2 and 4 are related in a certain way. Now you need to find out what the relation is. So there are between 2 and 4, there are like different kinds of relations. 2 plus 2 is 4, 2 into 2 is 4, 2 square is 4, right? There are different kinds. But using this relation, you need to find out if so, if this holds, then for 6, what similar relation do you find? And so what number will you find? So this double colon means basically there is a relation between 1 and 2. That's what the single colon means. Double colon means if there is a relation between 1 and 2, what will be the figure 4 that is related to 3 in the same way? Okay, that's what we're basically being asked here. So now what you need to do is just look at the figure, try to find out. Okay, so I will give you some time. Try to figure it out on your own. Look at the answer figures you have. So basically you need to know what is going to come here. Just look at the relation between this and this, and by looking at this, decide for this, that same relation, apply that same relation, and what is going to come here is what you need to find. You have 4 options. Just try doing it on your own, so you get the feel of having done these questions on your own. Non-verbal intelligence, mainly it's that's how you get to learn it. You need to do questions on your own. So I'll just give you some time. Okay. Just guess which of these options it's going to be. Okay, time's up. So basically the answer to this is, right, so you have a triangle and a square. What is the relation between a triangle and a square? See, this sort of comes naturally. You look at the figure and the first thing that you see is that basically a triangle here has 3 sides, right? 1, 2, 3. A square has 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically what we've done here is we have increased the side number by 1. Okay, so we first take a figure that has 3 sides, and then we add 1 to it, and then we take a figure that has 4 sides. This seems to be a possible relation. Keeping this relation in mind, see this. How many sides does this figure have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keeping this relation, you just need to find a figure which has 6 sides. So this is just a possible guess that we have, but we check the options and then we can confirm. Right, so this does not have 6 sides, not this, not 6 sides, no, not 6 sides. How many sides does this have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is the answer. So we only have, so for these questions, there will be only one right answer. Okay, and we have only gotten one right answer. We have gotten one answer, but the answer is unique. We don't have anything else that could be the answer. So we can be sure that our hypothesis, like whatever we've been thinking of, is right. Okay, so that's how we get it. So that's a question that comes under figure analogy, right? So there's no theory. All you need to know is how analogy works, and that too we have already studied under analogy. Okay, moving on. For all questions under nonverbal intelligence, I'll give you time to think for yourself first. So then it will be much easier. Find the figure from the answer figures that will replace the question mark in the question figure. This one. Try finding it. Basically, find out the relationship between this and this, and then see how this relationship holds for this. So for this, what will be the corresponding figure? Okay, time's up. So basically, right, I hope you've gotten the answer. So basically the thing is that here, what do you see? You see something like a square and you have a triangle which is inside that square, right? So there's a triangle and a square or rectangle or whatever inside it. So in the related figure, what you get is it becomes the opposite. So here the triangle was inside the square. In the second figure, the square is inside the triangle. So basically you have two figures. In the first figure, let's say figure A is inside figure B. In the second figure, figure B becomes the one that is inside figure A. So just use the same for this. Here you see that the square is inside the circle. So in this, the opposite will happen. The circle will be inside the square. So basically something like this is what we're looking for, and we have it here. Okay, we've gotten the answer, as simple as that. Okay, so basically all that we needed to do was try to figure out the relationship, which we did. And right, so it's a relationship of figures, one figure being smaller than the other, and then the opposite happening. So we just had to find the relationship, and with that we got the answer, and that's it. Moving on. So now this is the one that comes under classification. So this comes under figure classification. Figure classification. Okay. So what does it mean? What is figure classification? So do you remember what classification was? What did we learn under classification? Wait. Right. So classification was broadly the concept where what we had to do under classification questions. Just a moment. Right. Was all we had to do was find the odd one out. Do you remember that? So we had three types of classification. We had letter classification, we had number classification, and then what was the last? Do you remember what the last was? I'll give you 2 seconds to think about it. The last was word classification. Right, so these are the three types of classification that you have. So now this one that we have is basically something called figure classification. Okay, so here also we need to find the odd one out, but here we have a figure. We have figures. It's not letters or numbers or words. You need to do this using figures, right? So so classification questions were mainly based on odd one out, but basically what classification means is you trying to put things. What do you mean by classify? It's to, put certain things in a certain group. Like you find a group to put things in. For example, you have your okay, you have your mother, your mother's sister, your mother's brother. Okay, and then you have your dad's sister, your dad's brother, and your dad's cousin. So you have these lots of people. If you want to put them in certain groups, you can put your mother's sister, and mother's brother in the group of maternal family, right? So the family that you're related to through your mother. And then your dad's sister, dad's brother, dad's cousin, you can put them in paternal family. They are people who are related to you through your dad. So now you have put them in two boxes. You have easily classified them. So classification is something, I mean, here we just do it for fun, but classification, to be able to put things in certain boxes, it's something that's very, very useful for many different fields that you go to, because if you want to analyze something, if you want to draw conclusions from something, if you want to, for lots and lots of things, if you can put things in certain boxes, it helps immensely, right? To form a good view of something, to analyze something, to come to conclusions about something, to know how to classify things helps immensely. So here what you're doing is basically like a base level of that. You're looking at certain things that are given and you're saying, okay, how can I put three things in one box and then the other one keep it separate? What, on what basis? So this skill that you have, so that's one thing where intelligence is very useful, because when you study chapters like non-verbal intelligence, classification, analogy, you learn a lot of things, the way your brain works. So if you like study intelligence for a long time, the way you think, the way your brain works in itself changes, in the sense that you will see things in a different way, and it's very, very useful to you. Okay, so I'm done with advertising for intelligence. Anyway, the point here is you had to find out the figure that is different from the others. Okay, uh, I'm sorry, yeah, excuse me. Okay, so all we need to do is find out the figure that is different from the others. I can give you some time. Just look at these figures and tell me if you feel like any figure is different from the others. If so, why? Okay, the reason also. Don't be like, okay, I just feel like C is the answer. No, think of a proper reason. Right, your time starts now. Right, so time's up. So the answer to this question is D. I really want to know what answers you guys got. I mean, it's totally fine getting the wrong answer, but to know your thinking process, why did you think something else was the right answer, would have been very, very interesting. Anyway, so why is D the answer? So if you look at this, A, B, C. One, you could try going by sides, but doesn't really seem very useful. So here there are 4 sides, here there are 5 sides, here there are 6 sides, right? And here there is, you could say, just one side. Okay, but that's not very useful because all of these are random numbers. But another thing is, if you see what is this figure made up of? This figure is made up of straight lines. Okay, straight lines. This is also made up of straight lines. This is also made up of straight lines. But is a circle made up of a straight line? No. It is, in fact, a circle is also different in the sense that, you know, it's like you don't know the start point or the end point, it just goes on forever, 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 right? But the point here is that it is not made up of a straight line, and so D is the odd one out. Okay, so that's how you do questions of this kind. Just look at the figures, okay, take a good look and try to figure out, okay, do I feel like something is different for one figure? And this is also why it's important that you do non-verbal intelligence questions or under, you know, this kinds of classification. Actually, most of non-verbal intelligence questions, you need to do it on your own. Because if I explain it to you, okay, here it is the odd one out because this is not made of up of a straight line or straight lines. Here, this is the answer due to this certain reason. If I explain the reason to you, you will understand it. I mean, you will be like, okay, I understand this, I understand this. You will easily understand what I am saying, but when the same question is asked to you or similar questions are asked to you, then you need to be able to also be, able to find the answer on your own, right? So there is a difference between somebody explaining an answer to you and you getting it versus you actually trying to find the answer. So that's especially seen in the case of non-verbal intelligence, because you might easily understand what I'm saying, but you can be at a position where you're not able to do it on your own, right? That's why I make you think of the answer before I explain. So we'll do that for every question under NVI. NVI is basically non-verbal intelligence. Moving on. In the question given below, which one of the 4 answer figures should come at the right of the problem figures to complete the series logically? Okay, so this is basically again figure series, you could say. So series is also something which we have learned, so you know what is meant by series. Basically, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 figures. Now you just need to find what do you think is going to be the 6th figure. Okay, so and you have 4 options. Okay, now so instead of directly jumping to options, look at the figures. You have 6 figures given to you. There is enough reference, right? Look at the figures and try to find out some kind of, you know, I don't know, like some kind of pattern. In series, the thing about series is that always a pattern is being followed. So the point is, your catch is for you to find out the pattern. Okay, so look at the far right. So see, you have basically an element at the right, top right always, another element at the middle all the time, and another element at the bottom left all the time, and this position does not change. So there is no change in position. So basically, but if you look at the options, you can see D is not going to be the answer. Why? Because for D there is no element at the top right. What have you understood here? Ki there has to be an element at the top right. So D is not going to be the answer. Moving on. Look at the element at the top right. It's a circle, triangle, circle, triangle, circle. So basically you are alternately getting a circle and a triangle. Circle, triangle, circle, triangle, circle. So then in the next figure, what will it be? Based on your intuition, you can say this is going to be a triangle, right? So now just look for figures where the top right element is a triangle, but you see that this holds for all 3 figures. So anybody who put this question was clever. They realized, okay, the kid might find this out, but we're not going to let them shorten things, right? Make things easier. But now let's also try going to the bottom left. Triangle, circle, triangle, circle, triangle. Here also it's moving alternately between triangles and circles. But now here, since you have a triangle, you are expecting to have a circle here. Okay. So now if I expect to have a circle here, I need, again, that does not help because for all three of these at the bottom left you have a circle, so that does not help either. So now the thing that we need to necessarily look at is the middle element. Okay, look at the middle element. Now, looking at the middle element, let me know if you can find out which of these is the option A, B, C. Look at the middle element, see if there's any pattern or some series that you can understand, and on that tell me which of these is the answer. I'll give you 2 minutes. Okay. Okay, so we are done. I hope you have gotten the answer. Now, the answer to this is basically, what is the pattern? Here you have an L like this, and here it goes above, here also it's something above, here it's something this, and here the L repeats. So there is actually, even if you do not know the pattern, there is an easy way of finding this. So basically for series, you know a pattern is always followed. So you start, what is a pattern like? You start from something and then you follow a pattern, right? So you see here that what you start from is the end to, right? You start from something and then you reach at it. So then the second element here will be the same as the second element here, right? Because if it's the same pattern being formed from whatever you give as the first element, if this stays the same, then the second element will also stay the same because the pattern stays the same. So from that you can just directly guess that, okay, B is going to be the answer. So without even knowing the pattern, that's a very easy trick of guessing the the next pattern. I mean the next figure, right? So that can be done, but let's also try to find out the pattern because this might not be the case every time, right? So here you have something like this, and then something like this, and then something like this, and then something like this. Do you see something? Do you feel like the figure is moving? So if this is the first L, okay, then it has, so you have an L here, then it becomes something like this. Okay, this is what you guys are seeing, right? Yeah. So then it becomes something like this, then it becomes something like this, and then it becomes something like this. So basically what is happening to the L, it is moving which direction? In the clockwise direction. So first it was here, then it moved in the clockwise direction here, and then it moved here, and then it moved. Basically when my hand comes here, it's going to be something like this, right? Yeah, something like this actually. So basically it's moving the clockwise direction is another thing that you get. So if this is the basically first it's being like this, then like this, then like this, then like this. This is the clockwise direction that it is moving in, and so after this the one there is going to be is this, and so you still get the answer. But an easier, much faster way of getting the answer was this one. You can just be like, okay, the start and the end are the same, so the second and the second here would also be the same, and that's it, you're done, you've gotten your answer. Okay, moving on. Choose the mirror image of the following. 2, 3, 4, 5. Just numbers. And we've been asked to choose the mirror image. Okay, so this is a concept that we have already studied. Okay, so we'll do one thing. We'll do this question and we'll end the session. For the new session, I will also just take you through the concepts we have studied. We'll have like a revision so that it'll be useful for you guys. Before that, let's do this. Choose a mirror image. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll give you some time to think of what the options. Okay. Right, so times, okay, I'll just give you just some more time. Okay, so now the time is actually up. So you have 2, 3, 4, 5, and now you need to find out. Okay, so what did we say in mirror image? What happens in the case of mirror image? Basically, the right hand side becomes the left hand side, and the left hand side becomes the right hand side, but the top and the bottom remain the same. So an easy way I told you guys of remembering mirror image questions was basically, if you have anything, move it by 180 degrees. Okay, rotate it by 180 degrees laterally. Okay, then you will get the image. And for water images, it was, I don't know if you remember, but it was to move it from up to down. Okay, 180 but from up to down. For mirror images, 180. Actually, this is not 180, this is yeah, this is 180. Okay, sorry, I got confused for a while. 180 but laterally. Okay, so now the first thing, here you have 4 characters. So the first thing that you can say is that in a mirror image, as I said, the right will be the left and the left will be the right, right? So here, if it starts from 2, in the mirror image, the answer will start from 5 and it will end at 2, because the right becomes the left and the left becomes the right. So you know that this is not the answer. Okay, you have only been able to cut one option. Okay, so you know that it's going to be in the direction 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, here 5, 3, 4, 2, definitely not. Okay, so something that was in this direction will become in this direction. So 2, 3, 4, 5 will become 5, 4, 3, 2. So it has to be either B or C. Now, which of these is the question? So basically what happens in a mirror image is, let's look at 5 first. This is how 5 is. How will the mirror image of this be? Now just imagine, just envision taking this 5. You have the 5 in front of you and you're saying it, move like this by 180 degree. How will it look? Will it look something like this? Yes. Okay, if you're not able to imagine, I'll try showing it with my hand. Okay. So, okay, this actually looks like an S, but just imagine this is a 5, okay? Right? If this is a 5 and I tell this 5 to move 180 degree, this is how it becomes, right? This is how it becomes. So this is basically what your figure is going to be. And now, so now this, not this, so you know that C is the option. You've already gotten your answer. But if you want to cross check, we can move on within a second. 4. So now do the same thing. Imagine that you have a 4 standing in front of you and you're telling the 4, move, just rotate 180 degrees. So the 4 is standing here, okay? And it's telling the 4 to rotate 180 degree. What will you get? Just try imagining it. So it will be something of this kind. Okay, basically, right, if this is your 4, okay, if this is your 4, tell it to rotate it 180 degree, it becomes something like this. Okay, so this rotate and it becomes something like this, and that's it. That's how 4 is. You can do the same for 3 and 2 and you'll see the same thing. So basically, if 3 is like this, if it rotates 180 degree, this is what becomes. If 2, if you rotate it, this is what becomes, right? So for 2, okay, this is a 2. If it rotates 180 degree, this is what becomes. Okay, so that's it, and you're done. So this is how you find the answer. This is how mirror. So mirror image, see, all you need to do is envision things. Just think something you have in front of you and you're rotating it by 180 degree. That's the easiest way to think of mirror images. And just remember, if you have like multiple characters, something that is at the right will be at the left and at the left will be at the right. So basically, if it is in this form, in the answer it will be of this form. So that was the first thing by which we could get rid of 2 options, right? So no, just 1 option, but yeah, no, 2 options actually. We also got rid of this. So yeah, that works. So we have done 5 examples. So I mean, we have this session, I think I've been taking the session for half an hour, but we've only been able to discuss 5 questions. So that's the thing about non-verbal intelligence. There is a lot of explanation to be done from my part, but once you get it, it's going to be very easy for you. Okay, so we'll probably be having 2 more example sessions, because there are different, many different types of questions I need to cover. So don't worry, we'll get it done. Okay, so we're done.